Hello everyone, my name is Emily and this is Sumsub, a channel all about survival in the online jungle. Be honest, do you also sometimes have the desire to take a little peek into the life of a person that you used to be close to, but for whatever reason went your separate ways? Maybe it's an old pal, a childhood friend, an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend. Now this desire to be a little bit nosy is made all the more tempting by the fact that it's not difficult at all. Just a couple of clicks and you already know how they're getting on. Thanks Facebook and Instagram. And even if you're happy with your current friends and partners, the temptation to fantasize about what might have been is sometimes too great. Thoughts might creep into your head along the lines of, and what if back then we'd... Now, thankfully, most of us will simply close these pages without trying to remind ourselves of the past. But unfortunately, not everyone does this. Unexpectedly, a person from the past can appear out of the blue and seriously complicate your life. According to the Pew Research Center, 4 in 10 Americans were victims of online harassment last year. This harassment could be associated with political views, racial intolerance, or just plain jealousy. And if you're a young girl, then there's an even higher chance, in fact 30%, that you've experienced sexual harassment online. These numbers are really quite scary. It shows that any one of us can become a victim of cybercriminals, which means it's time to act. Today, I'm going to talk about how to protect yourself if you become the object of attention of a cyberstalker. Now, cyberstalkers differ somewhat from the other predators that we often find in the online jungle, in that they're not interested in your money. Of course, they might try to blackmail you, but the main goal is different, to either become a part of your life or destroy it. It doesn't matter what these criminals are doing, whether they're watching your activities or your movements, trying to give you a bad name or impersonating you. The key thing is that they are waiting for a response. So therefore, remember the main rule. Do not enter into any kind of correspondence or communication with a stalker. Asking them to leave you alone or threatening to seek help from friends or the police will only further provoke the criminal. His goal is your emotions. Deprive him of the opportunity to receive a prize. First of all, let's start by taking care of your social networks. Completely deleting your profiles is a reliable but inconvenient option. Without a Facebook or Instagram page, it will be much more difficult to maintain relationships with your friends and colleagues. Deleting your profile will also most likely just provoke the criminal further. He'll see this as his first victory.
Listen,
No, you listen, you little... You hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish, understand?
Some stalkers go even further. They create pages impersonating you, which copy your photos and videos. They send friend requests and messages to your friends, and then use these profiles to discredit you. If you delete your real page yourself, the stalker will only thank you. But let's not panic, just choose the highest privacy settings for each of your social media pages. Let only your very closest friends and family see your information. By the way, this is a great way to cut down your friend list. How many friends do you have on Facebook? 300, 500, 1,000 even? Do you really know all of these people, or at least more than just their names? I highly doubt it. In the mid-90s, British anthropologist Robin Dunbar noticed a pattern, that the number of stable social connections in primates is limited by the physical capabilities of the brain. Large monkeys have about 80 such connections. Therefore, a person whose brain is much more developed can have more friends, somewhere between 100 to 230. This concept has been criticised more than once, but nonetheless, the developers of social networks have been guided by the Dunbar number for a long time, especially when evaluating resources for their upcoming projects. In addition, scientists from Montreal noticed a link between the number of friends on Facebook and stress levels. Teenagers who have more than 300 friends produce much more of the stress hormone cortisol during the day. Having too much of this hormone can risk bringing on serious bouts of depression. Therefore, work through your friends list carefully. Delete everyone you haven't talked to since last Christmas. And of course, there should be no exes on this list. Rejected partners often use social media posts to attract attention to themselves. And this is easy to understand. The algorithms of social networks regularly show them people who they used to communicate with a lot. Constant reminders of an ex-partner provoke interest, but also make the split more painful. A special category is old classmates. Even if you graduated from high school just a couple of years ago, don't be afraid to remove your former classmates from your friends. Often a real monster can be hiding behind the mask of an inconspicuous schoolmate. Meet Matthew Hardy. He is one of the most infamous cyberstalkers in the UK. In January 2022, he was sentenced to 9 years in prison for the cyberstalking of multiple women. His first crimes were committed against his classmates all the way back in 2009. At that time, Facebook was still very much unfamiliar territory for the police, and the initial appeals against him were ignored. Impunity encouraged Matthew to commit new crimes. Over the years, the police have recorded more than 100 statements from 62 victims. The guilty verdict included just 9 of them. So it's highly likely that there are more trials awaiting Matthew.
You know, I remember going to bed with a baseball bat, for example, and sleeping with my phone in one hand and a baseball bat next to my bed because I was so terrified.
But going back to the protection of your social networks, a more time-consuming but better option for protecting your social media presence is to create another profile. Use an alias that's not associated with your real name, date of birth, or place of residence. As an avatar, you should choose something abstract, as unrelated to you as possible. Then invite your closest friends to this profile and use the old one exclusively for official communication. Delete all personal photos, posts, videos from your old profile and leave only the bare minimum of official information about your college or your university, places of work and professional successes. Your original account will still come in handy, of course, when you're looking for a new job or suddenly attract the attention of AML specialists. Of course, disable the ability to comment. A stalker can sometimes leave unpleasant messages under old posts. Now at this point, the attacker will probably start bombarding you with messages via DM. Don't answer them, but take screenshots of all the messages right away. Record the date and the time that you receive them. In the absolute worst case scenario, this will all be useful to you in court. In fact, it was such recordings made by one of Hardy's victims that helped prove his guilt. Simply blocking and reporting a user rarely helps. Attackers often use a large number of fake accounts. If you've become the object of interest of such a criminal, be prepared for the fact that he may start sending messages not only to you, but also to your loved ones, perhaps even from an account impersonating you. Be sure to warn them that you've become a victim of a cybercriminal. There's absolutely no need to try and hide it or feel ashamed by it. In this case, honesty is the best policy. Now with Facebook, everything is relatively straightforward. But let's try to take a look at yourself through the eyes of a cyberstalker. Try to collect as much information about yourself as you can from open sources. If you want a guide on how to carry out such a search, my colleague Bradley spoke about it in a separate video about OSINT. Check it out and carefully repeat his steps with yourself as the target. This way you can come to understand just how much criminals can find out about you. So the first step, it's to Google yourself, something I'm sure we've all done before, but check your real first name and surname. As well as on your social media pages, your name might be found on your employer's website or in regional news and press releases. Information in the media most likely can't do you any harm. And as a rule, you can arrange with your employer to remove information about your place of work from public access. If you want to remove mentions of yourself from Google search altogether, use the link to the special requests form. I'll leave a link to it down below so you can check it out if you want to. If you didn't find anything out of the ordinary, try searching for a pseudonym or a username known to the attacker. For example, search by email address or by an old nickname. Sites and forums that you have long forgotten about may appear in the search. It doesn't matter if it's a review for a hotel in the mountains or a forum about firearms. Delete all of your old posts and messages. Even with these small pieces of information, an attacker can find out a lot about your hobbies, travels, and possible friends. Why let them get their hands on such information? Now, let's turn to taking care of information brokers, Radaris, Spokio, Intelius, and the like. These companies collect and systematize information about all of us from the internet, mass media, and also have access to databases of credit institutions and government services. I recommend regularly checking information about yourself with info brokers. This will help to identify another possible method that cyberstalkers may employ. Now, you probably know the name Tim Cook. He now holds the position of CEO of Apple, but he also runs the clinic Safe Sex Clinic Cook HIV. Now, of course, Cook himself was completely unaware of this. A company with this name was registered in California by Tim's pursuer, Julia Lee Choi, a 45-year-old resident of Virginia. She sent letters to Cook informing him that he was the father of her twins, demanded $500 million, and threatened to burn down his house. The registration of dozens of strange companies was just one element of her harassment. Apple's lawyers promptly resolved this issue and removed these companies from the register, but the list still includes enterprises with unexpected founders: Queen Elizabeth II, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, and Julia Lee Choi herself. So don't be surprised if you suddenly find yourself as the founder of some strange business. After the incident with Cook, other cybercriminals began to adopt this method. Now, novice stalkers don't usually turn to information brokers, but experienced criminals can definitely make use of their services. Therefore, be sure to remove yourself from such databases. American and European legislation provides a procedure for the deletion of this data, but brokers comply with it in quite a formal way. To delete data about yourself, you'll have to first confirm your identity and then fill out a number of forms that are not located in the most obvious places. Manually, it can take a lot of time, so you might be better off using one of the online services that does this for you, such as Delete Me. We talked about their work in detail about a year ago, but let's return to what can be done here and now. Be sure to change all of your passwords. Start with the most important ones for your iCloud, your Gmail, and then work down to things such as old gaming accounts. If you're being stalked by someone you know or a former partner, this should be your first step. If the criminal doesn't know you personally, then it's not such a high priority. If possible, use services with two-factor authentication. This will reduce the likelihood of someone hacking your accounts. Carry out an audit of your smartphone and computer. An experienced stalker could have installed malicious software on them. Most often, this is done with the help of phishing attacks. Imagine that you received a message with a link to an archive that apparently contains your private photos. Most users will download and open this file without thinking. Of course, instead of photos, you'll receive spyware that the stalker can use to monitor you. You should delete all unfamiliar applications, or, even better, reset your smartphone to factory settings and manually reinstall the ones you need. This won't just help protect you, but has the added benefit of freeing up a whole lot of memory space. Make it a rule not to answer calls from unknown numbers, and don't exchange messages with strangers. Cyberstalkers like to use a lot of fake phone numbers and accounts. You should also review your old photos and videos. Consider what will happen if some of them fall into the hands of an attacker. Now, be aware, I'm not talking about those photos of you with a snapback and that Justin Bieber-esque hairstyle. I'm talking about photos that are perhaps intimate or compromising in some way. You should prepare for the worst. Imagine what will happen if they're used against you. Think about how you can try to mitigate the damage, for example by talking about their possible publication with your friends and family in advance. Now, if you suspect that a stalker is somehow receiving information about your movements, check your car, bike, backpack or bag for the presence of someone else's AirTag. These Apple devices are now in high demand among cybercriminals. It's easy to place them on another person unnoticed. Thankfully, there are several free apps available to search for such tags, so scan your stuff with them regularly. Any unfamiliar tag is a valid reason to get yourself down to the police station pronto. Now, the main thing that you should know is that you must not succumb to threats or blackmail. Don't make any deals with a stalker. Once they've found your weak spot, they'll put pressure on it again and again and again. The stalker doesn't need your money, he needs a place in your life. He sees these people living their happy lives online and tries to make a connection with them. There is then a rejection that the defendant feels, which then triggers a lashing out. Now, this is how the stalker's thinking was described by Matthew Harding's lawyer, who we talked about a little bit earlier in the video. Do you think you can really reason with such a person? No. Therefore, the problem needs to be solved radically, once and for all. If you are the victim of a stalker, collect as much evidence as possible and contact the police. Now, in the post-COVID world, the police are much better versed in modern technologies than just a couple of years ago. Not long ago, officers often simply brushed off such statements, but now more and more cases are making it to court. Even if the stalker left you alone, this probably means he just turned his attention to another victim. So don't let him stay free. Take action and fight for your safety. Okay, that's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching. My name is Emily, and this was Sumsub, your guide to the online jungle. See you again next time.